You ever wake up in the middle of the night and feel like something wrong is in the room with you? That cold, heavy silence? That's what I felt the night my brother's wife shed her skin for the first time. Let me start from the beginning. My brother, Tunde, was a kind of man who never believed in superstitions. All those things are just stories, he'd say whenever Mama warned us about spirits and strange beings disguised as humans. He was the first in our family to go to the city, and when he came back one Christmas with a wife, we were shocked. No introduction, no village elders, nothing. Just meet my wife, Amina. Amina was beautiful, too beautiful. Skin like smooth, polished glass, eyes that seemed to glow at night, and a way of moving that was unnatural. But Tunde was in love, and Mama, though suspicious, kept her thoughts to herself. Then weird things started happening. The goats refused to go near her. Our dog, Bruno, would whimper and hide whenever she entered the compound. Sometimes, I'd wake up at night and hear strange, slithering sounds coming from their room. One night, I was returning home late when I saw something that made my blood freeze. The moon was bright, and as I walked past her window, I saw her standing in front of a mirror. But she wasn't normal. Her skin was peeling off in long, transparent strips. Beneath it, her real form glistened, scaly, dark, and inhuman. I must have gasped because her glowing yellow eyes snapped to the window. In that moment, I knew my brother had married something not of this world. I ran straight to Mama's room. I didn't even have to explain. She already knew. I warned him, she whispered, grabbing her rosary. He didn't listen. The next morning, Amina acted like nothing had happened, but she knew I saw her, and I knew she knew. That was the beginning of the nightmare. That morning, I barely touched my food. My hands shook as I scooped up a morsel of amala, my mind replaying what I saw the night before. Amina sat across the table, smiling as she served my brother a piece of meat. Her hands were steady, her face calm like she wasn't hiding the darkest secret I had ever seen. But I knew, and she knew I knew. After breakfast, Mama called me aside. Her voice was low, urgent. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked. I nodded. She was shedding her skin, Mama, like a snake. Mama exhaled, rubbing her hands together. "I warned your brother. I told him to ask questions before marrying a woman nobody knows. But no, city people think they are wiser than tradition. We needed a plan. But what do you do when the enemy is already inside your house?" That night, I couldn't sleep. Every small noise made me jump. The leaves rustling outside, the creak of the wooden door, even the distant hoot of an owl. Then, just past midnight, I heard it. Hiss. My body froze. The sound came from their room again. I swallowed hard and tiptoed out of my room. The corridor was dark, but the faint glow from her window told me she was awake. I moved closer, my heart slamming against my ribs. Peeking through the wooden slats of the window, I saw Amina standing in front of the mirror again. But this time, her back was fully turned to me. Her hands were on her shoulders, peeling away her skin in large, glistening sheets. Underneath, her body shimmered with dark, wet scales. But the worst part, the sound, the squelch of human skin coming off. Then, as if she could sense me, she turned sharply. Her yellow eyes glowed in the dim room, locking onto mine through the glass. A slow smile spread across her lips, revealing fangs. I bolted. I didn't stop running until I was back in my room, locking the door behind me. My breath came in quick gasps. I pressed my back against the wooden door, waiting, listening. Nothing. Just silence. But I knew what I saw, and I knew she saw me too. The next morning, I told Mama everything. "We have to act fast," she said, "before she does something to your brother." "But how?" "We can't just tell Tunde she's a snake woman. He won't believe us." Mama's lips pressed into a thin line. "He doesn't have to believe. We just need proof." We decided to watch her closely, track her movements, find out what she really was. And that's when we made another horrifying discovery. That night, Mama and I stayed awake. We kept the lamps off, listening, waiting. Then, just around 2 a.m., the door to my brother's room creaked open. Amina stepped out, but she wasn't walking. She was gliding, barefoot, silent. moving like a shadow across the compound. Mama gripped my arm. "Follow her," she whispered. I hesitated, but then I nodded. Heart pounding, I slipped out the back door, keeping my distance as she moved toward the old well behind the house. Then she stopped. I hid behind a tree, watching as she knelt beside the well. She reached into her wrapper and pulled out a small clay pot. From inside, she took out something raw and dripping. Meat. No, not meat. Something's hot. I nearly choked on my own breath as she lifted it to her lips and bit into it. The wet, tearing sound sent shivers down my spine. Blood dripped down her chin as she chewed, her body slowly shifting. The scales spread, her arms elongating, her neck stretching, her head tilting back as if in pleasure. I turned to run, but I stepped on a dry twig. Crack! She spun around. For a split second, we locked eyes. Then she smiled, a slow, knowing smile, and then she disappeared. Not into the darkness, not into the trees. She simply vanished. I ran faster than I ever had in my life. The next morning, I burst into my brother's room. "Tunde, we need to talk." He groaned, rolling over. "What is it this time?" "Kola." "It's Amina. She's not who you think she is." His brows furrowed. "What are you talking about?" I hesitated. How was I supposed to explain what I saw? How do you tell your brother that his wife ate a raw heart in the middle of the night and turned into a snake? Mama stepped in. "My son, listen to your brother. That woman is not ordinary." Tunde sat up, rubbing his face. "Enough of this nonsense. You people never liked Amina. Just because she's from the city." "She's not from the city." I snapped. "Tunde, I saw her. She's not human." He stared at me. Then he chuckled. "You people are watching too many Nollywood films." Mama sighed. "If you don't believe us, fine. But mark my words, something terrible will happen in this house if you don't open your eyes." Tunde scoffed and walked out, slamming the door behind him. I looked at Mama. "What do we do now?" Her face was grim. "We prepare. Because whatever that thing is, she's not done with us yet." The next night, I heard something that made my blood run cold. A scream. A blood-curdling scream. It came from Tunde's room. Mama and I ran, bursting through the door. But the room was empty. The bed was unmade, the curtains fluttering from a night breeze. But there was no sign of Tunde. No sign of Amina. Except for one thing. A single snakeskin, curled up at the foot of the bed, and a smear of blood on the floor. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The snakeskin curled up at the foot of the bed, the smear of blood on the wooden floor. My brother was gone. Mama let out a wail that shook the walls. "Tunde, my son." She dropped to her knees, grabbing the snakeskin with trembling hands. Her face contorted in pain, but beneath it, I saw something else. Rage. We warned him. I whispered, my throat dry. We told him she was not human. Mama turned to me, her eyes burning. "We are not leaving this house until we bring him back, dead or alive." But deep down, I had a sinking feeling. Tunde was never coming back. The villagers heard Mama's cries, and soon a crowd gathered outside. The elders arrived, their faces grim as they listened to our story. "A woman who sheds her skin," one of them muttered. "A snake spirit." I shuddered. Baba Ola, the oldest elder, stepped forward. "This is not the first time we've heard of such things. There are spirits who walk among us, disguising as humans to lure men into their traps. Your brother was the latest victim. Then we must find him." Mama cried. Baba Ola nodded. "But we must be careful. These spirits do not like being exposed. If Amina has truly taken him, then she will come back for more." I swallowed hard. "You mean she's still here?" The elder's eyes darkened. "She never left." That night, the villagers gathered in our compound. They brought charms, herbs, and a powerful dibia, herbalist, to help us. "We will call her out," the dibia said, his voice deep and commanding, "and she must answer." The air was thick with the scent of burning leaves as the dibia began chanting. He circled the house, sprinkling a strange white powder on the ground. The villagers stood in a tight circle, clutching their charms, their eyes darting around nervously. Then the wind changed. The flames of the lanterns flickered wildly, as if something unseen had entered the compound. A shiver ran down my spine. Mama grabbed my hand. "She's here," she whispered. A cold breeze swept through the yard. The villagers gasped as a shadow appeared at the entrance of our compound. Amina. She stood there, barefoot, her long hair whipping around her face. She was still wearing the same wrapper from the night before, but her eyes, they weren't human anymore. They glowed a sickly yellow in the darkness. "You called me," she said, her voice smooth, unnatural. The dibia stepped forward. "Where's the man you took?" Amina tilted her head. "Man!" She smiled, revealing sharp teeth. "I have taken no one." "Liar." Mama spat. Amina's expression darkened. "Be careful who you call a liar, old woman. You do not know what you are dealing with." Baba Ola raised his staff. "You are not human. Amina, show us your true form." Silence. Then she laughed. A low, chilling sound that made my skin crawl. "You think you can command me," she whispered. "I am older than all of you combined. I have existed before your ancestors walked this land. And you..." She turned to me, her gaze piercing. "You have been watching me for too long." My legs turned to jelly. Then, without warning, the dibia threw a handful of white powder at her. The reaction was immediate. Amina screamed. Her body convulsed, her skin rippling like water. The villagers back away as her form began to change. Her arms elongated, her neck stretched, her legs merged into a long, thick tail. Her human skin peeled away in shreds, revealing dark, glistening scales beneath. And then she rose. A massive, coiled serpent now stood before us, its yellow eyes burning with fury. The villagers screamed. Mama clutched my arm. "Run!" The dibia didn't run. He stood his ground, chanting louder as he reached into his bag and pulled out a small, red calabash. He flung it at Amina, and when it shattered against her scaly skin, she shrieked. Smoke rose from the spot where the liquid touched her. She hissed violently, her massive tail lashing out and knocking over one of the villagers. The elders shouted incantations, throwing more powder and herbs at her. But she was fast, too fast. She slithered toward me. Before I could move, she was inches from my face, her massive fangs dripping with venom. "You should not have watched me," she whispered, her breath cold against my skin. Then she struck, but something stopped her. Mama. She had thrown a handful of hot ashes into Amina's face. The snake woman recoiled, screeching as the ashes burned into her scales. "Finish it." Baba Ola shouted. The dibia stepped forward, raising a dagger made of bone. With one swift motion, he drove it into her chest. Amina let out a deafening scream, her body convulsing violently. She thrashed, knocking over pots, scattering embers from the fire. But the dagger held firm. Her glowing eyes locked onto mine one last time before she let out a final, ear-piercing shriek, then collapsed. Her massive body shuddered. And then she was still. The village fell silent. Then, in the dim firelight, we watched in horror as her body began to dissolve. Within seconds, there was nothing left but a pile of dry, cracked snakeskin. Tunde was never found. The elders said he was likely consumed, his body lost to the darkness. Mama mourned for weeks, refusing to eat, barely speaking. But in the end, we had no choice but to move on. The villagers burned the remains of Amina's skin, along with the entire house. They said the land was cursed now. And maybe they were right, because even now, sometimes, late at night, I still hear hissing outside my window.